What's up, everybody? This is the Shot Clock Sports Podcast. I'm joined today by Ben Cantor. Ben, how you doing?
Great, great. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. You were on the show a few weeks ago with Garrick. No Garrick today, sadly. We're going to try and get another joint episode going next week. But rundown for today's episode, we got some NFL, NCAA, MLB. We got the World Series starting this Friday. And lastly, we're going to hop into some early on in the season NBA stuff. So let's start how we usually do, college side of things. Um, just wrapped up, what was it, week 8 this season, really moving along pretty fast
It is, yeah.
um, as things are starting to sort of not solidify, but you know who the contenders are now, and you know who's kind of out of the race for that 12-team playoff. It's probably been limited now to 25 teams, maybe 30 teams still have a chance, you could say, but realistically, probably down to 20 or so. Um, so we got the AP top 25 rankings up, and looking at that top 10, Oregon staying in that number one spot after Georgia had that dominant win. Do you see anything wrong with that, or do you think Oregon's deserving of that number one spot?
No, I think Oregon is the best team in college football. But I don't think they're going to win the championship. I don't think that team is built to go far. I think they're a great college football team. I think some of these other teams, I think Bama, if they catch steam, has a chance. I think Georgia, despite that loss earlier in the season to Bama, they are a team that I think could definitely win. And I told this to all my friends who like Texas. They hadn't played a real team. I don't really count that Oklahoma game. Oklahoma's not the team it used to be. You come in, you play your first real opponent, and boom, you get almost you know I don't even know how to put it. Was it 15 points? So I mean, it was 3-score, 2-score game, but I like that top 10 a lot, and I think it's correct.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oregon has the win of the year beating Ohio State. Um, in my opinion, because I do think Ohio State looks better than what that Texas team looked like against Georgia. Um, but yeah, I think Georgia is perfectly fit in that two spot. Maybe we'll see some movement. I mean, I think if Oregon keeps winning, I don't see them moving them out of that one spot. But moving down to 3, you got Penn State, which really interested me because I mean, yeah, they've done their job. They've won every game and moved up in the standings every week pretty much. Didn't move up this week, obviously, with Georgia jumping them, but stood in the 3 spot. Um, are they frauds? I'll just put it like that. Is Penn State team frauds, or do you think they're actually deserving of this number 3 spot in the rankings?
Um, well, I don't know a lot about their schedule, so it's hard to say whether or not they're frauds based off of who they've played. But they have one of the better records in college football, 6-0, Big Ten team. I think as conference play starts to even ramp up, that end of the Big Ten schedule is usually where you start to see more of those bigger matchups. Um, and I think that's where we really get to see Penn State. But Drew Aller's a great quarterback. Nick Singleton in the backfield. There's a lot to like about this team. I don't think they have the best roster in college football, and I honestly going the season wouldn't have even put them in the top 5 for rosters. But they're a team that is performing, and I think it's gonna be interesting to see how they can do when they gear up for later conference play against some of those bigger teams.
They got Ohio State on the schedule for November 2nd. They got Wisconsin this week at Wisconsin, which isn't an easy game
No,
at
no,
all. Um, I will say I think their win against Illinois, 21 to
that was
7
really
final was
good.
was a very impressive win. Great defensive showing against an Illinois team that's looked pretty good this year. That win at USC in overtime, a great win. USC
Well, while
obviously
we're on
isn't
the
the team
topic of
everyone.
while we're talking about USC, did we all watch my Maryland team? Huh?
Yep,
I don't know if
that
you're
was
I'm a
quite the
big
win.
Maryland guy from the DMV. Billy Edwards Jr. and who was it? Was it Roman Hemby and another one
Hmm.
did that alley-oop celebration after they came back against USC? What a game!
Yeah,
What a
yeah,
game!
definitely. Penn State's got Maryland on the schedule left
I was at a bat
of the
mitzvah
season.
party, but I had that running on my phone and
Yeah,
super excited.
Maryland looks like a good team that could definitely ruin it. team season like Penn State's this year. They match up against Maryland in the final
And,
week
and
of Big Ten
yes,
play.
Billy Edwards is a little bit older, but Roman Hemby's a sophomore. So if they can
Mhm.
keep him there without him transferring, I could definitely see Maryland, ramping it up these next couple years.
Yeah, so I think going back over to Penn State in Wisconsin, definitely a big test. Arguably the biggest they've had all year. Then you get home against Penn State. That's a big game. I like their odds against Washington at home. I like their odds against Purdue. And the game with Minnesota and Maryland, which are also both going to be tough games. I wouldn't say quite as tough as Wisconsin or Ohio State, but definitely trap games for this Penn State team as they're trying to make a push for that Big Ten title game. Um, Food to next. Let's drop down. I like that. That Tennessee game was a big one. That was an exciting game. That Tennessee win over Bama. That was awesome.
Yeah, Nico Yamaleva is the real deal, man. It's the real
hmm
deal.
Especially after that first half, it just looked like Tennessee wasn't going to be able to get anything going, making
They
just
got they got
terrible
the, they got the
mistakes.
they got the best name in all of college football behind General Booty, Squirrel White. What a name!
Let's drop down to the 10 and 11 spot. And really this whole 10 through 13, you got Iowa State, BYU, Notre Dame, Indiana. And I think those
Yep.
are four really interesting teams. Um, Three of them are Notre Dame has that loss to Northern Illinois, but has looked pretty great since Iowa State barely gets by UCF. BYU barely gets by Oklahoma State, and Indiana blows the brakes off of Nebraska. Um, what do you see out of you? You can focus on one. You can quickly go through all of them. What do you make of these four teams? And I mean, I think I would consider that they should be this fairly close ranked. I do think they match up pretty evenly.
I do too. It's great to see that the Big Ten is getting a lot more schools involved that are going to be, Illinois having a good season, Indiana having a good season. So that's always great to see. And I do think that, as we get later in the season, I don't think Indiana's going to go undefeated. I think they're 7-0 right now. And I don't see that, them finishing the season in that way. I don't see them winning the Big Ten. But they're a really solid team that, like you said about Maryland, I think they could ruin a team season, I don't know if they're going to make that 12 team just, with how many Big Ten teams are ahead of them in a tough conference. But I could definitely am seeing, spoiling a team that's, 7, 8. And then the two Big 12 teams, I want to look at Iowa State and BYU. Iowa State come off that win against Iowa last week, right? Am I correct on that?
No, they Iowa State beat Central Florida.
Central Florida. Yeah, it was right, UCF. I'd like to see Iowa State, perform a little better. I don't know much about them, but from what I'm seeing from the clips I'm seeing, around social media, they look like a good team. I honestly think BYU is going to win the Big 12. I think BYU is going to win the Big 12. That
Yeah,
BYU team looks super good.
and
They
they
look
make plays when they need to.
right. They make
Um,
the big plays. They make the big plays.
yeah,
They're calling them and they're making them, and that is the success to college football is the big plays. It's a little different than the NFL where a lot of small plays can make up that big play. In college football, you could be down 20 points, fourth quarter, you have that one big play, and all of a sudden you have all the momentum and you go out and win that game.
yeah. I honestly think Texas Oklahoma seemed like it was really going to hurt the Big 12. But you look at this year, and I mean, this is awesome with what BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State are all doing. Obviously, Utah having a really bad year. Um, but yeah, they both look like great teams that would both have a shot at this playoff. I'll go back to what you said about Indiana. I do think Indiana sort of does control their own destiny in a way, and that I think you can make an argument for a two-loss Indiana team to get into the tournament. They get Washington at home. I think that's a win. At Michigan State, I'll give them that win. Home against Michigan, that they should win that. At Ohio State,
Just doing my little research here on Indiana while you were talking. Starting quarterback's out next week.
ooh, yeah. I mean that throws a little bit of a wrench
Now,
into things. But
it
at
says
at home
Steven
against
Jackson
Washington,
versus Washington will get the number. But, and it's an indefinitely with a right thumb injury. So if it's a break, it could be a little bit longer. But that'll definitely impact their season, and it's just something to
yeah,
throw out there.
yeah. we'll see. I definitely like them to against Purdue and
Yeah.
Michigan. Their 5 games are Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue. I like them in Purdue and Michigan. Um, I mean, Michigan doesn't have a hurt quarterback, but they don't got a quarterback who can throw the football, so
Nah.
practically the same thing. I don't like them in that Ohio State game. So really, yeah, these next 2 weeks are very important for the Hoosiers. If they can win, they need to win at least one. If they could win two, that's really going to help their playoff chances out. Um, come crunch time. Let's fall to Alabama. Crushing loss to Tennessee. Now they're a two-loss team, and it's looking like this Alabama team when they beat Georgia with no way they missed the playoff. They're going to win the SEC. They're going to get that first round bye. You're looking at a team now that has to close the year with Missouri, then at LSU, then they go Mercer, Oklahoma, then the Iron Bowl, which is always going to be a highly contested game. So is this Alabama team maybe going to be in the outside looking in come the end of the season?
I think this upcoming week is their biggest week. I do. These next 3 weeks, but this week against Missouri is going to be big. These are two teams that, look like they could be in high contention and have both fallen down. Both have a lot to prove to put themselves back in that position. A big win against conference opponent, ranked opponent. It's going to put you up in the rankings. And so LSU's a really good team right now, as we're seeing. And, you know, Oklahoma's there. And as you said, the Iron Bowl, which is always going to be a competitive game unless Maryland is playing Auburn in, the Music City Bowl last year, which, I won't even get there. But, you know, this Alabama team has to win out. That's my theory. This Alabama team has to win out, especially in a tough SEC conference. It proves a lot. Strength of schedule is going to be there. We know with the we know going to a 12 team, but we know from the 14 that strength of schedule means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that strength of schedule. They are, I still think they're a really good team. Ryan Williams is super exciting. Jalen Milroe is a lot of fun to watch. So it's going to be interesting to see what this Alabama team does. I still see them making the playoffs if they can win out, and I do think that they can win out. I think that they can beat Mizzou. I think that they can beat LSU. I think they can win the Iron Bowl. I don't see a problem with them winning out.
Yeah, I will say I think this Alabama team should win out. They are the better team in all the games that they play. Especially
And
Missouri did not look
I
good.
think now that I'm thinking about it too, it really came down to that last drive, right?
Yeah,
They get that opportunity. They go for it on fourth that first time. Don't get it. Tennessee kicks the field goal. First play out, you go out and throw an interception.
mm,
They need to say, hey, that's not how we end our game. We're going to be a different team. They're going to come out with something to play against Mizzou.
yeah. I think I definitely view Missouri as a bounce back game, especially because the time was all. It is a big game for both teams. Missouri looked awful against Texas A&M, but I don't like Missouri's chances to bounce back as much as I like Bama's chances to bounce back, especially because this game is in Tuscaloosa. Um, very tough environment to play. Um, let's drop down. Let's go 17. Yeah, let's go 17, and then we'll end with the service academies. Boise State had the bye last week, but I think this is as of now. Actually, let's talk about the service academies too, because obviously it's the top five ranked conference champions get that first round bye. Then you're looking at Boise State ranked at 17, and they're a member of the Mountain
West.
West. And you got the American with Navy and Army. Um, so I think that's very interesting because one of those teams, I think Navy and Army, looking at their schedule, both have Notre Dame, and I don't see either of those teams beating Notre Dame. But I do think they could be the AAC championship game. Uh, looking at Boise State's schedule,
How would that work if they were to play in the American Conference Championship, but you have that 1 week already for the Navy Army game? Would they just play 2 weeks in
they
a
they,
row?
they just play twice. Yeah,
It's kind of brings down
it's
the
interesting.
excitement.
Yeah, I guess no one ever thought that they'd both be this good at the same time. But
Yeah.
looking at Boise State's schedule, I mean, they got UNLV, this
Future
Friday
Pac
night.
future Pac-12 preview.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. But looking at the rest of their season, San Diego State, I like them in that. Nevada, I like them in that. San Jose State, Wyoming, Oregon State. I view those as all wins for this Boise State team. So I guess I kind of just answered my own question. I don't think there's any way that an Army or Navy team finds a way to leapfrog this Boise State team unless one of them pulls off a shocker against the Irish in the upcoming
That's what I was
weeks.
gonna say. The only chance Army and Navy have, unfortunately, as much as I would love to see either of those service academies make the jump in the playoffs, give us some American pride, but they'd have to beat the Fighting Irish, and I don't see any of them doing that too. I think that Notre Dame brings a whole other talent that they haven't really gotten to see yet. So
Yeah, I will say maybe if you keep the game close and then win out and then win the AAC, maybe they give you a chance at that 12th spot. But if Navy plays Notre Dame this week and gets blown out by 30, I think an SEC team with 2 losses is
gets
going to
in.
want that last spot over a service academy with one blowout loss and a win over UTSA. I mean,
Yeah.
so I do think they definitely got to keep the game close, and a win is really going to propel them. It's almost a playoff lock if they can then do their job and win out against bad opponents. That's going to do it for our college football talk. Let's go over to the pro side of things. Just wrapping up week 7 last night with the 2 Monday night football games.
Mark
And
Andrews is back. Mark Andrews is back. I have him on the fantasy team. Just need to put that out there.
yeah, they're finally getting that usage rate up. I'm rocking the Justin Tucker Ravens jersey right now, actually. There's one unbeaten left, though. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people are calling them frauds. They started 3-0. Could have easily started 0-3. A couple calls go the other way. But after a 10-point win against the 49ers, is it safe to say that the Chiefs are going to be once again top-tier Super Bowl contenders?
I think they're Super Bowl contenders. I think what's going to be interesting to see is the longevity of those injuries come the playoffs.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster left with that hamstring again. That's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. And in that case, I think your wide receiver 1 is Worthy, 2 is McCole Hardman, and 3 is Sky Moore. And when this Pacheco comes back soon, right? Week 8,
Yeah.
week 9. So you get Pacheco back, but you lose your receivers in a pass-heavy offense. I like that defense, but that offense needs to click on all cylinders. They need to get their guys back from injury. Travis Kelce needs to be involved if that team's going to win. That has been the secret success when you have multiple receivers that can, go downfield, and you have Travis Kelce over the middle that you also have to worry about with a linebacker, or you have to spend another corner on him. That's what allows the Chiefs to win. And I don't think with Travis Kelce's usage rate that they will win a Super Bowl unless they start to ramp up the usage rate to Travis Kelce.
Well, I totally agree. This team's got, with injuries, has to get Kelce more involved. Having a down year so far, but I still think he has enough left in the tank to be the number 1 target on this team. That's where they're gonna need him to be. While the Chiefs are undefeated, you still got teams like the Bills sitting at 5-2, Ravens sitting at 5-2. Are the Chiefs still the best team in your mind of the AFC, or is one of those other teams? Would you still consider better than them?
As much as I don't like to say this, I think the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. I mean, AFC right now. Lamar, what was it, 330 something passing, all-purpose yards, and 5 touchdowns against a Tampa team that looked really good. But Jesus, man, when that team is getting involved, Rashad Bateman looked good finally. Zay Flowers. You get Mark Andrews more involved. Isaiah Likely, if he's there sometimes. And Derrick Henry, what was it, 170 something yards, 160 yards? People were telling me he's more. He almost scored like a 90-yard. He had an 82-yard run that wasn't even a touchdown. I was watching the Manning cast and they were talking about Derrick Henry. And they were like, I'm just waiting for that big run from Henry. And that's when that run happens. And I think it was Eli Payton just goes, well, there it is. And I think that's the mentality with this Ravens team is they're going to strike at some point during the game. You have to be, ready for it. And there's a lot of game planning that goes into beating this Ravens team. And I see them, winning the AFC. I think week 1 against the Chiefs, they'll bounce back. That's early in the season. They definitely found their stride. And I think going in the playoffs, the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. If the playoffs started now, I'd want the Ravens as, coming at the AFC.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. They lost that Chiefs game by less than an
Bogus
inch.
call.
And then obviously lose to the Raiders the next week, but that just seemed like kind of that was just a bad loss. I mean, there's no other way to explain that, but
I
since then, beat
think that
the Cowboys,
that game is
beat
still in
the
their head
Cowboys.
from the Chiefs game.
Yeah, then you blow out the Bills, beat the Bengals in what was a great game, beat the Commanders, and then you beat the Bucks last night. Those are all playoff level teams. So I would say especially with the offense right now. Derrick Henry was such a good addition. Like I honestly this offseason was thinking whatever team gives Derrick Henry money is making a bad decision. But it was the right move. This was the move. I don't even know since when, but I can't remember in recent history much better offseason moves. I guess you could say the Vikings signing Sam Darnold. He has looked pretty good, but Derrick Henry has just brought this offense to a new level, and it's made teams worry so much. Like, not only is he dominant and having those big runs that you mentioned every game, but it's also making defenses also worry about him, which just opens the door for Lamar Jackson to do so much more. And
Yeah,
that's why I think this offense has been so special.
yeah, it's like, how are you going to guard the read option? Are you going to say, hey, I want to go after the quarterback on the read option, let's be more aggressive on the quarterback, and I leave Derrick Henry open for a run? Or am I going to be aggressive on Derrick Henry because he's harder to tackle, and I give Lamar the open field? Either way, it's a bad choice. So that's the scariest part.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at this offense 41 points, 30 points, 41 points, 35 points. They're rolling. And yeah, I think Lamar Jackson could easily be on his way to a third MVP season. And I mean, 3 MVPs, are we tossing this guy into the top 10 debate for quarterbacks? I think you got to put him up there. And it's only a matter of time before I think the Ravens get over the hump.
I don't know about top 10 all the time.
3 MVPs? 3 MVPs? How many guys have done that?
Gotta win the chips, man. Gotta win the chips. Gotta win the chips. Don't matter if you can't win.
Got to get over that hump eventually. Maybe this is the Ravens here. We'll see. Jumping over to the NFC now.
Guy is struggling. Mm-hmm. I'll give you one word. Detroit.
What was that question? I lost you for a second.
I said I'll give you one word. Detroit.
Detroit. I was gonna get to that big win. NFC North is a crazy division. This division is going to be so much fun to watch the rest of this year. That was a great game.
In that division, for me, is going to be the most competitive division in the next 5 years. All 4 teams are very young. All 4 teams have a bright future.
Yeah.
The Bears have Williams. They have Odunze. They have Moore. And you look at the Vikings. Like, even when Sam Darnold's not really playing good, you got J.J. McCarthy when he comes back, Jay Jettis, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson when he's back from injury. And then you look at the Packers, you got Jordan Love, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. And then you look at that last team, which is the Detroit Lions. David Montgomery was hurt for a bit of that game, and Jahmyr Gibbs stepped in, right? He's young. Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. These are all really young teams, and that division is going to be scary to watch.
Yeah, this is a really fun division. Vikings have shocked everybody, but I mean, this offense and defense seem to click so simultaneously that when they're playing the best football, I do think they're the best team in this league. When the defense is just getting home on the quarterback and that Brian Flores blitz heavy offense, and the offense is just defense, and then you got the offense of just when it gets healthy, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson. That's a good offense to work with. So I think when they're clicking, that they're playing really great football. And Detroit, man, just huge win going into Minnesota, capturing the division lead. And yeah, Packers have looked great. I honestly think they're a little under the radar, because they're sitting in third
Yeah,
place in
I
that
agree.
division, um, and haven't had a huge win. I mean, they beat the Rams,
I think
Cardinals, Texans, but
I
Texans
think the
played
most
awful. They got the Jaguars, but 2 weeks from now, you got the Lions, then the Bears, and the 49ers. So this schedule is really going to start to heat up for the Packers, and I think it's really going to show you where this NFC, how good this NFC North truly is.
I think that the reason that Packers team goes so underrated is that's a scrappy team. All of their wins have been scrappy wins where they're either down or they're up and they kind of blow it. But they found a way to win. And I think that if they can continue that, they can keep flying under the radar and maybe get themselves in a wild card spot.
Yeah. Now, last thing I want to touch on is injuries, and there's two teams that jump out at me especially after this last week. San Francisco
Buccaneers.
49ers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing your wide receiver
Oh, the
one and
Niners are
wide
the one.
receiver two.
Man.
Can't I don't think you can get worse
And
than what these two
Godwin looks
teams
like
are
he
dealing
could
with.
be a season.
Yeah, Godwin looks like
No,
he's
what they
out for
said
the
Debo
year.
Samuel has pneumonia,
Pneumonia, he's in the
and Debo
hospital.
has pneumonia, right?
Yeah, and Ayuk's
Yeah, and
out for
then
the
you've
year.
got McCaffrey.
Yeah, who knows what's up with
McCaffrey,
McCaffrey? I
like
mean, the 49ers' healthiest wide receiver right now is Ricky Pearsall, who was shot in the chest 2 weeks ago. So, 2 months ago. So, doesn't
or
doesn't look like
Jennings.
they're in a
Is he
great.
injured right now?
Juwan
What about
Jennings, yeah.
Jennings? He's looked good.
But then the Bucks. So, how about you pick out of these two teams? Who do you think is in a worse spot with all these injuries?
All right, here's what I'm gonna say. It's hard because we don't know the Mike Evans timeline right now. We don't know how bad that hammy is, so it's hard to
They
say. If
said
Mike Evans is out for
Owls
the
came
year,
out said
Buccaneers.
week 11 or 12.
Week 11 or 12. In that case,
Yeah,
I'm going to stick with the Buccaneers. This team needs both of those guys to be competitive. Baker Mayfield is great when he has, and they would show it. Mike Evans left that game, and they had man coverage, left side. Baker Mayfield's first read is always, hey, I'm going to look for Mike Evans. Doesn't even look over there. He's looking somewhere else because he doesn't have that trust that he has with Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, and I think that's going to cause them to take a deep decline, unfortunately. And as someone who actually owns Debo Samuel and Mike Evans on the same fantasy team, this is horrific. Okay, this is catastrophic for me. So it's super unfortunate. I think both teams are gonna really have to fight, but I think these injuries hit the Buccaneers a little bit harder just because they don't have the defense that the Niners have.
and yeah. I'll jump on the side of the 49ers. Not exactly that. I I mean, I guess I'm kind of torn 50-50, but I'll jump on the side of the 49ers. Um, Losing Ayuk for the season just it really stings,
He's been
especially when
horrible though.
people thought this offense. Yeah, true, but people thought we were finally going to see this offense in full effect when McCaffrey comes back. But it's not. It's now you're not going to have your wide receiver two, wide receiver one, whatever the 49ers consider them. And I mean, this Debo Samuel stuff was pretty scary. Having to go to the hospital for pneumonia, that could easily sideline him for a couple weeks. And I think for the Bucks, you're still in a position where you're 4-3, you're leading the division. But I think the 49ers losing record and could easily start to see this season fall apart if they can't get things together. Um, and Kansas City just looked like a better team in this last week's game. You lost to the Cardinals, and your only wins are against the Jets in week 1, the Patriots, and the 49ers. Excuse me, and the Seahawks. Jeez. But I think these next few weeks are really crucial, and they don't got a healthy team to get some of these wins done. Um, so for me, I think that team is hurt more. Trying to think of anything else for the NFL. No, I think that's what do we think?
You want to move to baseball? Where
Let's
are we
move to
gonna go when
baseball.
we're in?
Real quick, Jets trading for Devontae Adams. Do you think this team just in a downward spiral at this point? Do you see there being any chance that this team can
No.
salvage the season?
Nope.
Yeah, and they do have
Next.
winnable
Nope.
games coming up on the schedule. You get the Patriots, Texans at home,
That's I.
Cardinals, Colts. But I don't know. It seems like they needed to fix the O line. They didn't fix the O line. So for me, I just think they're not going to be able to get in the right place. So yeah, let's move over to base. Actually, let's go NBA first. Then we'll save the big World Series for last. NBA
Oh,
got
you tricked me.
oh
I showed.
Mets. Rough loss.
Yeah, I was
You
at the
could show
game.
it again. You could show it again. But NBA kicking off. We're here as we're live right now. Celtics. Knicks just kicked off in the first game of the year. I know you're a big Celtics guy, but um, who's the team? No, just give me this. Who do you got a finals prediction for this year? We know it's early. We'll come revisit these at the end of the season, but just beginning of the year, I just want some predictions from you. Who you got in the championship?
Well, first I'm gonna go from the Eastern Conference. Just gonna get up for this. We did it! All right, give me the Boston Celtics out of the Eastern Conference. Out of the Western Conference. Damn, that's hard. See, I would have said T-Wolves, but trading Cat to me doesn't seem like it's like a move that puts them in contention. I don't know, man. That West Conference is kind of rough this year. I don't want to say Mavs again. I don't know, man. Let's go. Let's go for a spiral here. We're gonna go weird one. Give me the Grizzlies.
No,
No, no,
I
no,
was.
no. I like the Grizzlies. I think it'll be the Western Conference Finals. Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm sorry, all Thunder fans.
You're picking the Thunder. You're picking the Thunder.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say the Grizzlies are a sleeper team in my opinion with Jaw back, but I like that Thunder's pick. For me, I'm gonna go. I'll start with the West. I'll start with the T Wolves. Maybe I got a little bit of bias there, but um, I do think moving Cat doesn't hurt you, doesn't help you. Because I think Naz Reid waiting on the bench, it'll be interesting to see who they start now between him and Julius Randle and that Gobert, that trio. But I do think they found a good replacement, and I think Dante DiVincenzo um, is going to bring this backcourt to the next level. And then I also do expect Anthony Edwards. We saw him take leaps last year. I think he's going to take another huge leap this year as really like a top tier MVP candidate. I think being on that Team USA with some of the greatest players of all time really taught him a lot, and it's going to be. It was really useful for his development. People forget how young this guy is. 22 years old, I want to say.
Legit. Is
So
Jason Tatum
he's
still not?
not. But he's not done developing yet. And I think this is the year the Timberwolves finally reach their first NBA Finals. Out of the East, though, I'm not going to go with either of the teams that's playing right now. While I do love the Knicks and the Celtics this year, give me a team that wasn't healthy to end last year, disappointing end to the season, um, but has my pick for MVP this year. That's the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I just think this team wasn't really able to get into the full swing of things last year, and I think this is the year where they're gonna finally put the pieces together. And I think Giannis is gonna have an MVP caliber season. And he's out there with something to prove. The Bucks are no longer the team to fear in the East, so I think that's especially with the window closing is with Dame getting old is this is the Bucks year to really get after it and and go win a ring. So give me the Bucks out of the Eastern Conference. They're definitely also a team I could see maybe making a move at the trade deadline to really bolster their chances. Um, and yeah, I'm expecting some great things from the Bucks. Um, I sort of just gave away my MVP pick with Giannis, but who do you got winning MVP this year? I have a feeling I know who it's going to be.
Let's find this guy on the screen here. There he is. Better go press it on defense. Jason Tatum. They just forced a throw up by Josh Hart. Called shot clock. Oh, they called that a foul. No, sorry. I'm getting distracted. Jason Tatum.
All
I
right.
mean, what else is there to say, man?
I don't know. I like Tatum. I think he gets too much hate, but there's just so many more great players, man. Like
That
I, I'm forgetting about Jokic. Like Jokic to me is still the most valuable player. I don't know if he'll win it because of voter fatigue, but I think he will be the most valuable player this year. I just don't like his chances to actually win the award. And the reason I chose Giannis is because I think he could possibly be the best defensive player, which is really going to help him out. Um, so yeah, let's not much to talk about on the NBA. We'll get to that in the upcoming weeks as we can finally see how these teams actually perform. I don't want to give out a bunch of predictions right now, and then have those players suck or those teams suck or the certain teams be super good. We'll wait a little bit on that. But let's wrap things up. MLB World Series kicking off this Friday. You a Yankees fan, Ben? Oh, you're a Mets fan. Jeez, my bad. Didn't mean to bring it up. But my New York Yankees versus the cross country rivals, LA Dodgers. Um, I think most people would have considered these the two most high powered teams in baseball all season long. Maybe people would throw the Phillies in there. But when these teams matched up in the regular season, it was almost made out to be like a playoff series. Because it was really meant to show who the best team in the league was. Um, who do we got on the mound Friday for both squads? I assume
it's
Flaherty versus
Bueller for
Cole.
the Dodgers. It's Flaherty.
Oh, it is Bueller. No, yeah, it's Flaherty. It's Flaherty. Um, how do you see this series going? I'll just ask you straight up. That you can give me kind of game by game predictions. How many wins they get at home? How many wins they get
Dodgers in
away?
4.
In 4. Wow. So is it close at all, or just Dodgers
Yankees
blow?
suck. 10-0, 10-0, 10-0, 10-0.
Interesting. Is that just because you hate the Yankees?
Absolutely.
I thought maybe you have a little bit of the hate for the Dodgers after knocking you guys out, but no.
I'd just like seeing the Yankees lose if the Mets are going to lose. I'd like to see the Yankees lose.
All right.
Also,
Now,
if the Mets lost to the Dodgers in 6 and the Yankees go lose in 4, makes me happy.
the Mets get the second place consolation prize.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll give my pick. I'll just go by when they switch states. So first 2 games in LA. I like the Yankees game 1 with Garrett Cole. I think we're going to see a really good performance out of him, and it's going to be a low scoring game. I actually think for 2 offenses that have looked really good. I think Flaherty and Cole are going to pitch some gems, but I do see the Yankees coming out on top in game 1. Although give me the Dodgers to bounce back game 2, tie it up 1-1, go back to New York. And I think that's where the Yankees are going to start to gain control of the series. I think New York playoff time World Series is going to be such a hard place to play, even for a team as big as the Dodgers. I think this game obviously means a lot for LA, but it means so much for New York. And this is a team that Stanton's playing his best baseball, Soto's playing his best baseball, Aaron Judge, and on and off, but it finally seems like he's starting to come together in time for the World Series. Liberatore is playing his best baseball. This is a team that's really clicking at the right time. And not to say the Dodgers aren't, but at home, give me the Yankees to win 2 of the 3. it'll go back to LA. Dodgers are gonna win the first one, put some pressure on. But game 7, give me the Yanks, man. It's well overdue for the Yankees to get their 28th. I feel like they've been chasing this forever, ever since I've been a fan. It's just been playoff heartbreak after playoff heartbreak. But I think this is finally the year that they get it done. Like I said, the Yankees are just matching great baseball with timely hitting. Um, the bullpen has me a little worried, but I think Weaver. I gave up that one walk, game tying home run, excuse me. But other than that one Guardians game where they really blew it, what was that? That was game 3 when they lost 7-5. The bullpen has looked fairly well, and I think the Mets bullpen, if anything, has looked probably worse, giving up some just like total implosions of innings. Their offense just looked really strong, but give me the Yanks in 7. I think it's going to be a great series, but also end the best player debate. Aaron Judge is going to go off. But give me Juan Soto to win World Series MVP.
Oh, World Series MVP. I didn't even think about that. I'll give my prediction. I'll give my prediction if both teams win. If the Dodgers win, give me Tommy Edman. The way he was playing in the NLCS has me thinking that he's the reincarnation of Cal Ripken mixed with Ken Griffey Jr. and Babe Ruth. Um, if it's the Yankees, I see no way it not being Juan Soto.
Yeah, unless Judge really does come alive, I like the Soto pick. I'll go different on the Dodgers. Give me Mookie Betts. He's been really under the radar with how well he's been playing, on both
Well, then
offense
that's
and
kind
defense.
of cooked him a little bit. That's kind of cooked him a little bit.
A little bit, but I think um, I'm expecting a big series out of him. Especially, I think he's a Red Sox at heart. He hates the Yankees. So I expect him to have a big series, especially if the Dodgers are going to come out on top. Anything else you want to add before we wrap things up for today's episode, Ben?
The score of the Celtics game is 35-20 Celtics.
All right, Celtics are looking good to start the year. Uh, yeah, geez, yeah, they're killing 'em. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. Ben, thank you for coming on the show. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Shot Clock Sports Podcast. We'll see you next time.